Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week, back to Thursdays, woo! And yeah, we've got 6 albums to go through, so let's go through them. We begin with a project called Daughter of Swords and their new album Alex, so a bit of a backstory to this one. So Alex is taken from the name of Alex Sousa-Mornick, who's the creator of the Daughter of Swords project. Alex is a member of a cappella folk band called Mountain Man. I've got it written down here, I don't know why I stumbled over that. This is Alex's second solo project, and I'm giving this an A-. I really like the more indie rock vibe, I like the more electrical elements added, there's a really good keyboard, and I like the synth and guitar work too. I quite like the drumming. Solid instrumentation. I like the performance of Alex, they do a really good job on the vocals, they're quite charming, they're easy to listen to, and just have a really good voice. I like the lyrics' attempt at self-examination, but I wish I could have found a bit more about the themes themselves. There wasn't really a lot I could dig into, but they're written quite honestly, which I appreciate. I do like the pacing as well. It's got a lot of fun tricks that it throws in, and it keeps it a nice breezy feel. I do think it sort of stumbles near the end, but it mostly manages to work, and I like the production. It's handled nicely and feels quite organic, and it's got a lot of really good effects. Maybe it overdoes them, and sometimes it can come across a tad goofy, but I think that adds to the charm. And all in all, yeah, for a second go, for Alex's first album, like, on their own in 6 years, because they released their debut solo one in 2019, which I also haven't listened to, really like this, and really good work, honestly. Next, we have a band with a very fun name to say, Mamalarkey, and their new album, Hexkey, or as we say in the UK, Allen Key, but it's called Hexkey because this is a band from Texas. Also an indie rock vibe. I'm giving this one a B-. I feel like there is some good instrumentation for the most part, but I don't really know how to fully feel about it. I sort of like the lyrical theme trying to express themes of, like, depression and self-doubt, but the album's length doesn't give them enough time to really shine, and also a lot of the words are quite repetitive and it doesn't really add a whole lot. I feel like the production is a tad overbooked, for lack of a better term. It mostly makes the sound work. I think the band are pretty solid as well, and they have good chemistry. But it does sort of feel like lead singer Livy Bennett is the main focus, which I've got no problem with. She has a good voice, but I don't know what it is. She feels so separate from the rest of the band to me, and it's very, very weird. Pacing is very strange. I feel like there is an experimental aspect to it because, yeah, it is an indie rock album, but it's got like sort of like noise and art pop elements which could have worked, but they're just not implemented well enough because the main core sound isn't that strong. And without a good bass, you don't really have anything that you can wrap around it to spice it up a bit, and it just doesn't really work. I think the instrumentation is solid. I like the keyboard work, I will say. I think the keyboard and synth work is my favourite thing about this album, even if it can feel a bit overpowering, and even if the guitar could feel a bit more like it has crunch, which I think is a fault of the production, probably, but again, this is on that does just about enough, and it's got all these good ideas, but I don't think it dives into them nearly enough for my liking. Next, we have a band called Mesa and their new album, The Spin. So, I really didn't know how to interpret this one when I first heard about it, because usually I don't really look into the albums I'm about to go through. I think most of my episodes of Music of the Week are just blind by nature. This is a doom metal band, which sort of set my nerves off, because I was like, yeah, it's doom metal, it's probably going to be okay, but it's Italian doom metal, which is like 10 times better than most other doom metal, and I'm giving it an A+. Yeah, I'm not kidding, this is actually a really fucking great album. I love the instrumentation, because the instrumentation on this, right, and the pacing by extension, does something that most doom metal doesn't do. Where most doom metal keeps a similar sort of gloomy vibe, and sort of carries it through a song, drags it out a bit, doesn't really go anywhere. And Mesa just decided, how about we, like, make it count at the end? And yes, they do that. They do that quite well. I love how that's worked in. The instrumentation itself is fucking great too. The guitar work is... And that's an actual, like, Italiano. That's probably racist. I might have Italian in me. I don't know. Well, I did have pizza flaps earlier, so I guess that counts. I technically have Italian in me through that. Yeah, really good stuff there. The performances are proper great, and vocalist Sarah Bianchin is really, really great, but it is the guitarist Alberto Piccolo who does the best work. He's the lead guitarist. He's absolutely killer on the axe. And yeah, solid there. Great production, very organic. I like how polished it feels, but also quite nicely condensed, and it makes it really pop. I've already commented on the pacing. I do think the lyrics are like the weakest aspect, but they're also pretty foreboding and written quite well. And while they don't stick to a theme, I feel like there is an attempt at a concept having read into the lyrics because they're easy to find on the Metal Archive / Metallic page. I wish I could have dug more into them, but they do have this really nice habit of saying a lot without really saying a whole bunch, and yeah, great. All around, just really good shit. I wasn't expecting to like this one as much as I do, but yeah, I know. This is one of those things that reminds me, as much as I like doom metal, I could always like it more, and yeah, this is an example of liking it more because it's really well done doom metal. So normally I like to work in more jokes for my reviews. I'm not really going to do that in this space. Because this next album is the debut of Nell Smith, titled Anxious. Nell Smith is an English-Canadian musician who sadly passed away last year after completing the recording of the album back in 2023. She passed away last year at the age of 17. I'm giving this album an A. It's really well explored. It's another bit of indie. I think more psychedelic leaning indie pop rock. Really nice layering on the mix. Nell's vocals are incredible as well, and she's got like this soft way of singing that I think is just a very nice listen. I like the lyrical themes that explore like teen uncertainty and the highs and lows of going with that. It's a really good theme for someone who was a teenager at the time, and it worked well. Yeah, instrumentation's really good. I like the laid back vibe, really good guitar work, and again, very enjoyable synth. Yeah, pacing solid. There's some really good ideas that are thrown against the wall, and it does sadden me that we're never gonna hear Nell throw more ideas at the wall. Um, it's a damn shame when someone puts out a debut, and usually I'll comment on like, if a debu's already great, then that means I've already tapped into their potential, or if a debut is good or like less than good, you realize that the potential's there, and you give them the time to like nourish that. And it's very fucking sad that Nell is never going to be able to do that. So even though it's not my highest graded album of the episode, it is the album I recommend that you listen to the most to hear what a talent Nell was. And you just hear her honesty and how she feels and how she writes through the album. So I urge you to check it out and maybe cry a little bit because I didn't, but I came pretty close listening to it. Next we have Rebelmatic with their new album Black Hole Leads to the Tornado. This is a more hardcore punk sort of thing, NYC hardcore, with some really nice soul and hip hop elements. I'm giving this one a B. So I did cover the last album that they put out back in 2020, and I like that one a lot more because I feel like what this one lacks is the sense of urgency that the previous one had, which is weird because this one's more experimental, I would say, and definitely tries to go to more interesting places. I feel like I'm trying to think of what exactly holds it back. I like the performances. Yeah, really good work from the band members, especially the drummer Randy Jones, who, I didn't know this until looking into it, is actually the brother of Old Dirty Bastard from Wu-Tang Clan. So that's a cool little fun fact if you felt like you needed to know that. Production is really good. I feel like some elements could have been detailed or like punched up a little bit better, but it does clean things up well enough. I feel like the pacing is good. Again, the lack of urgency is a little bit weird, and it could have been put together a tad better. But I do like that they work in more sort of soul and hip hop and underground influences. I think it does help a little bit to keep it interesting. Lyrics are really good though. I like they focus on mental health and specifically on how good art can feel and what it can do to help people. That's a really good thing, and as people know from me talking about Reconciler's album last year, I like an album that's about art, that teaches us that art is a very important thing for us to have in our lives. I feel like the instrumentation is pretty solid as well. I think it benefits the most when it does stick to its punk influence, but I feel like it could have done better if it had that hardcore punk influence, but again worked in its outside elements a little bit better. I feel like that's sort of a thing it has going against it, but all in all, it's Rebelmatic and they're really good. I just hope that the next album comes out in under 5 years because they do not have the most frequent release schedules, so hopefully they can fix that. And finally, we have a band called Speedway with their debut album, The Lost Refrain. This is not to be confused with a Scottish pop rock band, also named Speedway. This is a Swedish hardcore band. And I'm going to say it because I have it written down here in my notage, in my review that I posted. Can the Nordic countries do more punk rock and hardcore? Because they're really good at metal, but we need more punk rock and hardcore, because they're really good at that too. Case in point, this album gets an A. I really like the melodic vibe of the instrumentation. I think the instrumentation is maybe my favourite part about the album. There's some good guitar solos here, but it really sticks nicely to its breakdowns. It's got some really good punch to it, which I quite like. Performances are really good as well. I wish I knew who did what, but the lead vocalist is really good, and the drummer especially goes nuts, but everyone's pretty great here too. The lyrics get an A, and I like the themes of hope and self-discovery despite the pressures that modern society puts on people. And, you know, I like it when an album sort of challenges those modern tropes. It's a really good thing. Pacing, I feel, is maybe the weakest aspect because there's good variation, but a lot of the songs are really short. This album is just 7 seconds into 21 minutes if the Spotify time thing is to be believed. Yeah, it's the shortest album of this video as well. So I recommend going to check it out if you just want something short and sweet and very, very heavy and punchy. But, you know, while it does try to vary things, it doesn't really... a lot of the songs aren't really given time. I think almost all of them are under 2 minutes. There's only one that's like over 3 or something. But, you know, it does what it can with what it has. Again, instrumentation and lyrics are really good. The production surprised me, though, because the band self-produced this. And they've been self-producing their own stuff, I think, since they formed. And yeah, this was just a really good first go for like a self-produced debut. To get it this right with how organic this sounds and how like natural it sounds, yeah, it's really fucking well handled. So, and again, also a solid recommend and another really great first showing. That's 2 really good debuts in one episode. I'm really happy with that. Next is favourite album cover and favourite song. I would have to say favourite album cover goes to Rebelmatics' Black Holly's The Tornado. I just really like how it looks. Again, I've always been a big fan of like black and white worked in with more colourful elements, and I like that it looks like a sort of mural in a way. You know, really good political art piece, black and white with some really good colours. Favourite song I would have to give to Billions of People from Anxious by Neil Smith. It was almost Thicker Blood from Mess's album The Spin, but I feel like between the two, as heavy and as great a closer as Thicker Blood is, I just think that Billions of People is much sweeter and heartwarming song to listen to. Without any cynicism, it's a very, very sweet song, and I recommend giving a listen to it if you just want some good, heartwarming love song vibes. And as for this weekend's lineup, we have Iron Lung with Adapting/Crawling, Mayday Parade with Sweet, Pigs with Death Hilarious, Scrounge with Almost Like You Could, Super Heaven with Super Heaven, and Team Mortgage with Devil Ultrasonic Dream, which is one hell of a name for an album. So yeah, looking forward to covering those by this time next week. And that'll about do it from me. The next thing you'll actually see before will be tomorrow, the return show after Break Even, and then over the weekends, more Let's Playing of Yakuza Like a Dragon. I've really got to start actually scheduling some of the episodes for that, but we'll see how it goes. So I'll see you all tomorrow for more stream. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.